Okay, I think we're live. Usually it says we're recording. Okay, folks, welcome to the Strong for Life podcast. I'm joined with Clem Nihill today. Myself and Clem know each other for many years. We're both from a village in Ireland, in County Clare, Clonlara. And I wanted to get Clem to come on and talk about physiotherapy. He's a physiotherapist. He is also lecturing at University of Limerick. He's involved in a lot of different sports teams. And he's also into studying psychotherapy now as well. So I think there's a lot that we can go into detail on. So Clem, thanks for jumping on, mate. And let's just start with a quick intro, a bit about yourself so people know who you are.
So yeah, like you said, Connor, from Clonlara in the west of Ireland. Recently moved back home to the west of Ireland, having spent nearly 9 years in Edinburgh working as a physiotherapist with the NHS. If I was to reverse even further without going too far back into the past, I used to work in IT consultancy and then didn't like my job, and wanted to pursue the job that I was passionate about. So I was actually I went and do person training part-time, and that path kind of brought me down the road of trying to help people in pain, when I was working in person training, and then decided at 30 years of age I'm going to go back to university and actually study physiotherapy. So fast forward 10 plus years, and now I'm doing what I love best, teaching physio and practicing physio, and recently decided to go back and studying a very different industry altogether. But it on the face of it sounds different, but actually has a lot of similarities in psychotherapy. So it's exciting, but yeah, I love where I am at the moment between the teaching and the practicing and the learning. It's a great mix.
What was the trigger to go back and do psychotherapy?
I find, Connor, that my job when it comes to helping people achieve uh, movement tasks that are currently not available to them, be it getting on and off a toilet, or be it being able to walk from their bedroom to the living room, or be it rehabbing an ACL and looking to back into an All-Ireland final. A lot of them are just movement challenges. There's more to it than the biological. There's something more to it, be it in physiotherapy, we call it the biopsychosocial factors. Psychosocial factors are very, very powerful. It's more than just, I need to make your hamstring stronger. What I've realized over the last few years is, if I give you 3 to 5 to 10 exercises to do, it doesn't really matter a whole pile unless we have meaning or an identity to why is it that we're looking to do it. And if your identity is being impacted by your confidence in your ability to achieve what we're looking to achieve, or even are you just happier in life in general at a very basic level, I find that sometimes the conversations that I like having are peeling those layers of the onion down, where I'm trying to find out what is it exactly that we're trying to achieve here and why. Why is it that we're looking to achieve that? And I found that the tools weren't available to me, and aren't currently available to me, to unpack those important conversations, even though the person in front of me wants to have those conversations, um, and that kind of therapeutic alliance is built, that relationship is built. But then we get to a place where I'm actually not equipped to help you along the rest of the way. And you might feel that yourself sometimes, where you just think, right, our relationship is so strong now, and there's a lot of trust built up now, that you're sharing things with me that are massively important and pertinent to the journey that we're on. But I don't think I'm the right person to help you. And the best analogy I can give, Connor, is sometimes when you get to those places where almost taking a journey through their head, their mindset, and there's rooms in there that need to be looked into, those dark rooms that need to be explored and unpacked to get more of a deeper understanding of who you are as a person. But as a physio or even a person trainer, we need to be equipped to be able to walk into those rooms with our clients and explore things in them that might not have been unpacked before, be it trauma, be it fears, be it, I don't know, relationships, whatever it is. I'm not currently equipped to be able to go into those rooms with some of my patients and my clients. And I'm excited to find out how I'm able to mix the physiotherapy side of things with the psychotherapy side of things, especially in the world of sport,
Very
be it
cool.
females or males.
With the biopsychosocial, bio is the like the biology of the muscles and the body. Psycho is the psychology around the person, like what they're thinking, why they're doing or not doing something. And then the social is the environment that they're in. Like everyone I'm around is not moving, so I'm just not moving as well. Is that it?
And it isn't always down to like social could be, do I have actually this, like in terms of that spectrum I'm talking about? Social might be you're a 78-year-old man living alone, partner passed away 10 years ago, trying to be independent, trying to make sure you can get to the grocery store and come back again independently, trying to be able to make sure your bedroom, that you're able to scale those stairs to get up to the bedroom again daily on a daily basis. And suddenly something happens, life just punches you in the face, and you're no longer able to weight bear through your right leg, and suddenly you can't get your groceries anymore. Socially, your social network is very, very important there. If you don't have family close by, then social factors are going to play a massive part in your, no matter how much biological I'm able to input in terms of giving you exercises. If I don't have the social support there, then we're kind of at a loss. So sometimes we only miss these things, these social connections when they're gone. All of us take for granted sometimes our physical capacity until we miss it. So until I make you suddenly non-weight bearing on your right leg and you suddenly can't weight bear through your right arm because of a fall down a cliff, and you go, and then suddenly overnight you're like, no, I can't, I can't walk now upstairs. What do I do next? Then that's when the social factors, psychological factors are very, very important in addition to the biological healing of that injury. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah, it's a really important point. Um, but like that's within physiotherapy already. So like that's a pretty good skill set to be given. So how are they teaching you to apply that? Like you've got a 60-minute consult with a client or a patient. Is that like a pre-questionnaire or how are they currently delivering that?
Yeah, some places might use a pro forma questionnaire just to make sure you're unpacking all this patient story, because that's essentially it. Every patient has a unique story. Every person, client, or whatever terminology you like to use, will have a unique story to them. And one small part of it in the physiotherapy world, we call it the International Classification Framework, which we call the ICF model. That's why the framework we kind of use to help students appreciate that big picture. And biological is a tiny, tiny piece of that, of the bigger picture. There's social, there's environmental, there's psychological. Environmental might be, do you have stairs at home? And if not, then grant, we're on a single level, but do you have 3 access steps to get in? Like I said, if you non-weight bearing, you're 78, that means you're gonna have to hop up 3 steps. That could be
Mm,
tricky if you're carrying a bit of timber, as I say, in the west of Ireland. So
mm,
we need to bear that in mind. It's almost like the big picture view. Sometimes you can get a little bit microscopic in terms of what are the exercise I'm giving you to help you with your leg. But then if you just step back a bit and just think of the patient, empathize with with the person in front of you, put yourself in their shoes, and just think how hard, what difficulties might life pose if I was this person tomorrow and they were hypothetically at home. It's not just about, right, how strong is that leg? It's the bigger picture. Are they going to get groceries? Were they engaged in any community groups outside of here? Like was there a men's shed club they were going to, or a golf club they were going to, or walking football they were going to? How can we engage them in the community for social engagement, which might help them with their ability just to, I don't know, just have meaning and purpose in their life again, rather than just staying at home having the groceries delivered to them every day, which is a sad state of affairs, but unfortunately is the reality for quite a few people.
yeah. And then you stop using whatever, like you don't have someone to help you, you stop being active, then you get more weak, you get more compromised, and then your risk factor. Do you want to maybe talk on that for people as well? Like that kind of downward spiral.
Exactly, and that's what we were touching on the last time we chatted, Connor, in that which was an amazing conversation we had for hours and end talking
Would
about.
have been a good podcast.
It would be a good podcast. We should have stuck the microphone in. it all comes down to so osteoporosis is the topic we're talking about here. So which is a weakening of the bones as we grow older, which affects, when you look at osteoporosis Ireland, I think the figures are close to 300,000 people in Ireland right now are thought to have osteoporosis, which means that they're going to be more predisposed to fractures. And not all of them traumatic fractures. Not all of them are going to be in a car accident or falling down off a height. Some of them are what's called fragility fractures. So, which might be considered normal load on abnormal bone. So if I was to step off a curb here in the Hinch in the west of Ireland and fall, it's unlikely I'm going to fracture my hip. But if I've got osteoporosis and I'm the wrong side or the other side of 50, 60, that could potentially mean that kind of slightly more normal than usual load applied to my hip could result in a hip fracture. So, and then, like I said, going back to what I was saying before, we only miss it then when it's gone. And unfortunately, if life gets less meaning, less purpose, less routine activity wise, and nutritionally, so alcohol, smoking, caffeine can predispose you to osteoporosis or osteopenia, which is your pre-stage, the before stage of osteoporosis, so that weakening of the bone setting in. Then life might predispose you to having those weaker bones, and which might lead to those fractures, which leads to a downward spiral in terms of your activity levels. And like I said, we were talking, I think what triggered your interest was the strange statistics that are there around hip fractures, that 10%, I think it is, of people that will have a hip fracture will be dead within 1 month.
It's more, I actually have it up here. It's some report which, like, it's even hard to believe this. Like, some reports show that up to 50% of patients over 65 with hip fractures die within 6 months, and many of those who survive do not recover their baseline independence and function. Like, that is crazy. Like, that is beyond crazy. Like 50% of people, like, that's completely, like, no one believes that when they see it. But like, do
A
you
large
think
part of that, Connor, is a large part of that obviously isn't necessarily the hip fracture itself. The majority of it is comorbidities start coming to the forefront then. So if you have hip fracture plus type 2 diabetes and you're overweight, then it's going to be harder to rehab that when you're trying to rehab on basically relying on one leg. Or you could have Parkinson's, or there's a multiple amount of comorbidities. So comorbidities meaning in addition to the primary condition that you have to deal with, there are other issues that you're dealing with as well. They're probably the ones that will come to the forefront when activity becomes less, and therefore sarcopenia, so weakening of muscles, weakening of bones, starts setting in, and then it starts leading to a downward spiral of ill health. Respiratory wise, all your systems are going to start deteriorating. Your respiratory system is going to deteriorate, your cardiovascular system is going to deteriorate, psychologically, mental health is going to deteriorate, self-efficacy, so your belief in your ability to carry out certain tasks is going to deteriorate. So I think they're the factors. They're kind of almost secondary to the fracture, but the fracture is the trigger that sends that spiral off. Does that make sense?
Totally, yeah. Because if you have any, like, you're 65, you're 70, you have pre-existing health issues, you were being a little bit, you were walking 3 times a week, you were seeing friends, now all of a sudden you're in bed, you're gaining weight. So it's exasperating all of those health conditions, and socially you're cut off. And then in your mindset, you're like probably very afraid as well. It probably give the person a big shock. Like, I had loads of fear over my back pain in my 20s. So if I was 65 or 70, I'm sure that would be times 10, you know? So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think it's just good to talk about this stuff, because just seeing the compounding of different things, like, as you get older as well.
It's massive, and you just touched on such a massive factor as well there, Connor, in terms of the fear and anxiety that kicks in. And I was talking with this earlier on to you about the psychotherapy, how what role that has in this patient journey. Listening to the patient's story and trying to validate it is massive. Like, it's not just about me going in saying, right, we need to get that right leg all stronger because you had your hip fracture 3 weeks ago. We need to get you out of bed and moving a little bit more. That's all about the what. Like, what are we supposed to be doing? I could talk to you about the how. How do we do it? Maybe walking, maybe a little and often. Often trying to get out of bed and trying to get down maybe 10 meters up down the corridor, up and down. But the why is really important. Why is it that we're not moving? Have we got falls anxiety? Are we terrified? It could be what's called a long lie. So you might have broken your hip, but ended up lying in your kitchen for hours until someone came to see you. That can be quite traumatizing, and therefore a massive barrier to movement when you're getting through your rehab. So there's so many complicated pieces of the jigsaw here that can result in a downward spiral, which can be very, very hard to, and a big challenge for people to deal with on their own.
Yeah, I was doing a call yesterday with a lady inquiring about my online program, and that was her trigger to get in contact. She basically was just, I think she was doing her laundry on the floor, sitting on the floor. She's in her mid-60s, and after an hour, she tried to get up, and she physically couldn't get off the floor. Then she started getting all of these like hip and back pain. Eventually, her partner came in and helped her, but she was like, if my partner wasn't there, I would have been like I would have been stuck there for I don't know how long. So it was a big like, a big shock. Um, so yeah, it's kind of, I guess what I'd like to maybe go into is if you reverse engineer, what can people like be doing now, even if they're 30 or 40? Because it sounds like, getting off the floor for a lot of people, it's like it's such an obvious, easy thing. You don't even think about it until it's gone. So what would be some basic things people can be doing now or start building into their training or their routines, even if they're not in their 60s?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Is what do I do to prevent this? But it's all it's definitely all about prevention more so than reaction.
Hmm.
Humans are strange like this. Like we need to start with the human behavior piece.
Yep.
Ideally, we all, it's not a knowledge deficit thing. Like we all, like a lot of times humans know I should be smoking less. I should be probably watching my diet a little bit more. I probably should be getting more sleep. I probably should be exercising, but it's not happening. So it's probably not a knowledge. I could sit here and go, yeah, we need to be exercising and do our WHO recommendations, exercising 30 minutes a day, every day, but it just doesn't happen. People know that already. So I suppose it'll be about identifying to people the risks, maybe talking to them about why is it that motivation entering piece, me as a clinician anyway, use this all the time. You're trying to identify what stage of change is the person in. Are you, because people come to us, you and me, in that that reactive stage in their stage of change, whereas the vast majority of people are in that pre-contemplative stages of change. It's not an issue, they don't need to talk about it. They're pre-diabetic and it hasn't even entered their radar yet. And my thoughts are, how do we, in terms of a public health standpoint, and I don't know the answer to this, I'm just spitballing here. How do we, from a public health standpoint, get the message out that we ideally need to be more proactive about this stuff before it becomes an issue? Because our hospitals are full to the brim, and the population is only getting older. It's inevitable in 20 years' time, we're going to hit a scenario, a reality that is going to be shocking if we were to fast forward right now to 20 years. I don't even,
Hmm.
I don't even want to imagine it. Like if 20 years time we're dealing with a a much older population, the hospitals are as they are at the moment, and you know as well as I do how challenging it is in the west of Ireland in terms of the hospitals here.
Hmm.
um I think we're getting the message wrong in terms of telling people what to do, in terms of telling people we need to be exercising more, we need to be moving more, we need to be a bit more mindful of what we're eating more. I think we need to maybe do some more qualitative research on what is it that are the barriers right now to you engaging in this process. I want to know more from those people that are in pre-contemplative stages. What is it that are the barriers for you? Is it a community level access thing? Are gyms too expensive? Are the ideas put forward to you too intimidating? Like sometimes it's a simple walk once a day is far better if it's done than the 30-minute gym session that freaks you out that isn't done. Like that's a no-brainer. Like start simple. Like at a basic level, to answer your question, if I pull back from that rant I'm on, we know that osteoporosis can be helped with consistent loading, be it walking, be it gym, be it cycling, be it swimming. So consistent activity and loading. Bone responds very, very well to consistent loading, regardless of what age you are. It still has the capacity to respond. So if I'm in an aqua jogging or aqua therapy class, which are absolutely fantastic, that's going to help you with slowing down uh, that inevitable process of bone breakdown and bone buildup. Like as we age, that process, if you're under 30, generally the process of you're going to be in terms of profit and loss account, you're generally going to be more in profit in terms of my bone density, my build up rather than my degradation. But as we get older, this process of bony build up, for want of a better word, is going to slow down, and degradation is going to stay where it is. So you're always going to be in a little bit of a loss if we do nothing. Whereas if we do something, maybe we're just going to break even and maintain what we have. There's some fantastic research for anyone interested from a professor in Indiana called Stuart Warden, and I can share this research with you after this. But he talks about baseball players. He looks at Major League Baseball players and does, I think it's CT scanning on their throwing arm and versus their non-throwing arm at various ages post-retirement, so 40, 50, etc. And even though those people would have retired decades ago, tries to compare the thickness and the density, the strength of those bones on one arm versus the other. And they find that generally you maintain, I think it's like a 50% of their bone density and a third of their bone strength on their throwing arm versus their non-throwing arm, even though they don't do any throwing, they haven't done any throwing for decades. So the work they put in when they were young and then in their 20s maintained that bone density and that bone strength well into their 50s.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's also something that a lot of people don't think about is like if you played sports as a child, you've built all of these behaviors of just doing something. Like you played hurling, you played football, you played soccer 3 nights a week, 4 days a week. That like if you didn't do anything your whole life and now you're 40, you need to build, like it's like you've no foundation. You're like, oh, I now need to build this foundation. And then onto your point there, like it's, I'm into like a lot of gymnastic strength training. But when I see these guys that maybe they started like 4 years after me and they just obliterate me in all of their skills, I'm like, how are you progressing so quickly? And they're like, oh, I did 10 years of gymnastics as a child. So all of their like ligaments and tendon development, all that stuff is just like you're kind of saying, it's already been modeled and built. And I'm just like, at 30, like trying to do this stuff, and it's just so slow. But I think that's a really like important point for people to the benefits of starting sooner, but also if you're starting later, I always say to clients, like it's shocking how quickly you lose strength and muscle and mobility like after 50, but it's also shocking how quickly you actually gain it if you actually become consistent.
Yeah, it's almost like that someone mentioned this to me years and years ago in Scotland when I was doing personal training, that they look at movement like this as their health pension, that they're
Cool.
investing in a health pension, that you reap the rewards further down the line when you really need to, like any pension, you might need to dip into it every now and then. So if you start now, and this might be the message that goes out to the public, is that if you start now and start investing in this stuff now, you may reap the rewards when it comes to hip fracture in 20 years time. And that research from Stuart Warden has shown that you could do this at 15, 16, 17 years of age, and you're going to reap the rewards at 50 to 60, which is massive. So your health pension starts when you're a
I
kid.
call it a movement retirement fund.
Yeah, exactly. That's even better. Movement retirement fund is perfect. You're going to reap the rewards, but you need to find something that's very, very accessible, enjoyable to you, not necessarily dragging everyone to the gym. It might not be their cup of tea. It's just start something. Just start something. There's a great book, and the author is lost to me, but it's called No Sweat.
Oh,
Uh,
I love that. Yeah, Michelle Seiger.
yeah,
Great.
fantastic, where it talks about
OTMs.
it's what, yes, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
What she the research that is mentioned in that book is just fascinating in terms of what it takes to invest in this health pension or movement retirement fund. It's fantastic, and it's an absolute no-brainer. It's what is it that's enjoyable and accessible to you that you can start tomorrow, no matter what, how difficult it is in terms of in the intensity on that Borg scale, that you're out of breath. Just start moving more, and then let's see if we can reap the rewards from that in years to come. It's massive.
Yeah, it's really, that book is, I read that like probably 8 years ago. And when I say OTM, like people still, my friends still say like, oh, I got my OTMs in today. Like
Yeah,
it just sticks with people, which is really cool, like opportunities to move for people listening. So like whatever, you can get on the train or you can walk the 10 minutes to the destination you want to go to. That would be an example of an opportunity to move. Or you can squat while you're waiting for something, or hang, or do something that's movement beneficial rather than just sitting in
yeah.
place.
And I wonder, Connor, like again, this is me thinking about the education piece and about it not being a knowledge deficit thing. People sometimes think it's because I want to be gaining muscle or gaining fitness, but there's so much more to movement than just the physical, just the biological. Like I'm in the Hinch here, the west of Ireland. Went for a cycle with, I have an ACL patient that I'm helping rehab at the moment, and we're in that cycling stage. So I brought him for a cycle around West Clare, just there, 25 kilometers, very well short, relatively. And then we jumped into the sea afterwards in here. Place is covered in jellyfish. The patient got freaked out. There was all these jellyfish, so I had to reassure him they don't sting. Jumped into the water, was in there for 15 minutes, and both of us came out feeling absolutely amazing. Um, do we gain a whole lot of muscle mass in that effort for the hour and a half? Probably not, but just feel rejuvenated. And there's so much more hormonally, psychologically to movement than just let's get it stronger, let's get the bones stronger. It's just a bigger picture, and that maybe people don't maybe people take for granted, or don't fully understand, including myself. I can't explain the mechanisms, but you just do feel great when you do all this stuff. Maybe it's because we
Yeah.
detached from phones for a while. Detached from
Oh, dude.
for a
Yeah,
while.
100%. It's also like, I think a lot of like the issue with the fitness industry is most people have less than 5 years experience who are in the fitness industry. They're very laser focused on this small corner of fitness, which is kind of bodybuilding, physique, muscle, and they are very uneducated in how to deliver that to someone who's like in their 40s or 50s or 60s, who really doesn't care about it being absolutely shredded out of their minds. They just want to be like able to play with their grandkids and not be in pain.
Yeah,
So it's very off-putting. You go to the gym and there's this 20, and no disrespect to people, but like if you've got 3 years experience, you've got 3 years experience regardless of the industry. Like it's not your fault, you just don't have enough experience to do a better job. So I think that's a big problem as well, is that you have this do you know Andrew Reid? Actually, he's a Australian coach. Have you
no,
heard of him?
name doesn't ring a bell.
Amazing guy. Like he's been coaching since 91, I think. He's like in his 50s now, and he was just saying it's the personal training statistics is the same as small business statistics. So 80% are gone within 5 years, and then it's, basically people can't stay in the industry. So then you just have this, he uses the stats in Australia, there's 30,000 PTs, but really most of them are always just 5 years with experience. So you're never actually changing. The industry is kind of staying the same. Now it's improved a lot, since when I started, because there's way more information out there, but there still is a lot of like pushing people way past what they're able for. So if you've someone then who's like, oh, I want to get fit, they go to a class like my friend, she was my age, like 36, 37. She went to a very well-known studio in Australia, in Melbourne. I recommended it to her because I thought that I hadn't been, but I thought that they were good. And it's kind of CrossFit style, but they just hammered her for 1 or 2 sessions, chronic back pain. She signed up for a 12-week program. She paid in full, or it was a direct debit, and they were like, you're locked into your contract. So they kept billing her like $1,000, and she was spending $1,000 on physio as well during that period. So, that's like that's a bit of an extreme example, but it's still, unfortunately, yeah, the industry is quite limited, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's very
That's
what focused, isn't it? Like, what am I meant to be doing here? Like methods focused, right? Like, these are all the exercises, one size fits all. This is going to help you cure your back pain. And again, this is me harping back onto the psychotherapy side of things. It's very, very important we understand the person in front of us as a unique human being. And this is tricky to scale that out to a large amount of people. That's possibly why I really, really love the one-to-ones, the one-to-one type of relationship I have with clients and patients. If I was to do that with a group, I find it tricky in a team to have that same effect. I much prefer the depth and the identity that I can get when I'm sitting with someone right in front of me to find out what is it that's making you tick? What is it that gets you out of bed in the morning? And what's stopping us from achieving that kind of purpose in whatever we're trying to do? I think that's maybe potentially what's causing that barrier to movement sometimes is maybe that the purpose of why do I need to do this isn't there. So if I'm going to a personal trainer, be it in Melbourne or Dublin, doesn't really matter. And they're just smashing me with a program every day. A the locus of control, that empowerment is completely gone because I just turn up, they run me into the ground and I leave a broken man.
yeah.
It's probably only going to last a few weeks. I'm probably going to say, oh, I can't do this anymore because someone else is driving that that car. So whereas if we're able to provide someone with the tools that we can kind of co-design what we're supposed to be doing together, then that is power, doesn't it?
I
If I
love that term, co-design. Yeah, it's
It has to
great.
be. It has to be a co-designed pathway forwards. That what is that you enjoy doing? All right, let's try and incorporate that. I can take some of the knowledge I have for around the why it might work and the mechanisms. I don't need to get too technical with it, but I can guide you on what might work best with the options that you have on the table. So we both come to an agreement on what you think works best. How often do you think you can exercise? Where do you want to exercise? You at home, in a gym? What's available to in your gym, right? What do you enjoy doing? What do you think when you go to the gym, what do you enjoy going to? Is it treadmill? Is it a squat rack? Or is it the floor? Do you like just rolling around the floor, doing some yoga movements? Fine, perfect. Right, let's see if we can co-design a consistent, realistic plan here that I can help you with. You can check in with me whatever you like. Rather than me saying, right, there's the program I just made for you with absolutely no input into what you're thinking yourself. And the longevity that is going to be tiny, isn't it? Like this.
Yeah. It's also like, I don't mean to bash the fitness industry, but like, if if the thing you want to do forever is only giving you a sense of punishment and restriction, like you're not going to continue doing it. There's nothing that you would be like, I can't wait to
Yeah.
get punished again and do this thing, you know?
Some
Um,
people weirdly love that though. Like I used to work at a CrossFit box and CrossFitters, I love CrossFit, it's fantastic, but sometimes the folk in that I was accustomed to seeing CrossFit just love the smash. They just love getting punished. They just love that feeling of God, I am absolutely screwed. I just did that session and I can barely lift my arms. You love that. That's fine. That's fine. But it doesn't suit everyone. It doesn't suit everyone. And I wondered sometimes is there longevity even in that? Like, are you going to be, I love the idea of going to the gym and thinking, could I do this in 20, 30 years time? but I keep doing this. And if I could, I am delighted. I was talking to a personal trainer friend of mine in Edinburgh there a few weeks ago about I'm getting to a point in my life now where I'm not going to the gym to hit records and get a max bench, get a max squat. Those days are behind me. I'm going to the gym to see if I can just play with things, just make sure the body's moving, greasing the joints, getting there, getting the work done. 45 minutes, I'm out to do work because that means then I'm able to turn up 2 days later and do it again and do something new. Um, versus right, I'm going to go to the gym and go to see if I can hit a max deadlift today, and then break myself in that reach, and then I'm done then for a few months. Yeah, those days are well gone.
Yeah, you know, it's a good thing to do to push yourself physically at times, but also just one thing that come up there as like for coaches who are maybe getting clients to squat, deadlift, bench, and doing these big three movements, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you can um link it to why it's important to the person individually. So, hey, we're going to do squats here because I know you were saying that you wanted to be better at this activity or your legs to be stronger. This is actually going to be really helpful for building that base for you. Now the person's like, oh, okay, cool. Squats is going to help me with this thing, rather than like, this is just some random exercise that I don't even know why I'm doing it. And that's much better from like an intrinsic motivation standpoint as well.
100%. If they get transferability to this is going to help you lift up your 8-year-old grandson out of the car, then ideal. And again, going back to the hip fractures, we are loading hips, knees. That femur is going to get stronger if we're under a heavy barbell consistently. Bone responds better to that type of load going down through it. It stands to reason then it's going to decrease your hip fracture risk, so decreasing any issues you might have further down the line. So it makes sense. But if the person's at home and we don't have a squat rack, let's just do something.
Yeah. You said play there. I think we have about 5 minutes left, man. I think that would be a good thing to finish on. Like I think play is so underrated as a thing for adults in particular. I started doing salsa. I think I was telling you that at Christmas. I was doing bachata last year, which is Latin dance, salsa this year. And I think that ticks so many boxes of like balance, coordination, play, community, social, just cognitive development as well. Oh my God. Like it's like, you know, pushing social dancing again in communities, I think would be a huge win-win to do as well.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And one of the biggest regrets I have, Connor, is this is possibly why we don't play as much as adults, is this fear of looking like an idiot and fear of messing up, like socially, especially men. Socially, we don't want to do something that's going to threaten our standing socially. Like I was when I was doing PT in New Zealand, I was working in a gym with this jiu-jitsu black belt personal trainer, and he was fantastic, great guy. And he said to me there one day, just come in, we can do some rolling in the gym. And I just thought, like, the alarm bells went off in my head, going, this guy's gonna ruin me if I go rolling. I'm new jiu-jitsu. This guy's a black belt Brazilian. He's gonna ruin me. Like, and I was like, no. I backed away completely. Said, no, thanks, but no, I think I'd be shaking. But in the years since, I just thought that would have been unbelievable if I just went in and just explored movement and just learned new things, learned new patterns. And it's almost like fertilizer for my brain. Just trying different patterns cognitively would be amazing. But sometimes, yeah, you get wisdom as you grow older, but you don't really have it when you're younger like that. You can't really see you can't really see the benefit when you're a bit younger than that. But I think it's massive. Play is huge. More, but definitely more cognitively than anything else. We
Big
lose
time.
it as we grow older,
Yeah, I
unfortunately.
think BJJ as well is like the best person to roll with is a black belt. The worst person is a white belt because you
Yeah,
don't get hurt at all.
yeah.
And I
Someone
think
should have
it's a
told me that.
really yeah, yeah. Because I think it's just I think also like if you played a lot of sport, like let's just say I just see like I played hurling my whole life. So then like I'm good at hurling at like 18, 19. Then to go from like the top to the very, very bottom of the pile with a new thing, it's really tough on the ego because you're like, oh, so but it's very good to go into this new environment. Like with dancing, I'm dancing and there's people who've been dancing since they're 8 or 6.
Yeah,
And I'm like, why am I shit? And this person's really good. It's like, because they've got 20 years on me, you know?
yeah.
But it's so good for you.
Would
Like,
you like it? It often makes me wonder though, like, are the people that are really, really good the ones that are less attached to, where their ego is less attached to the result of play, if you know what I mean? Like, if this looks bad, am I gonna look bad? Is my identity tied to my performance, which I think sometimes happens as we grow older. Whereas a 6-year-old playing in the floor, doing a sport, isn't really going to lose their mind if they miss a shot at a ball going into a basket or something like that, like, or whatever they're doing, whatever the play task is. It just makes me wonder, like, when you, I don't know if you got to see the game at the weekend, like bringing it back full circle to the Clare match.
yeah,
Game at the weekend, but the hurler Tony Kelly, who plays for the Clare team, what he did that day in terms of his ability to take on scores. No, I haven't seen another human being do that before. And I wonder, my curiosity is that when Tony was a kid, I wonder how much stock he took on, oh, I can't make this look silly. I can't try this because it's going to look stupid, or they're going to slag me or something like that. You must have so much self-confidence in your ability to, because it doesn't just, those amazing abilities don't just happen. Like, they don't just give it a go and they ace it. They're repetition, repetition, repetition. It's that skill acquisition piece. He's tried it a million times over as a kid, as a teenager, as a young adult, and some of it hasn't come off and some of it does. But through that repetition, he is a freak of nature, what he can do with a ball. And when I was watching that on Sunday, in awe, like everyone else in the 82,000 odd people in Croke Park at the weekend, looking at Tony Kelly scoring that goal and scoring that point where he just swiveled, he completed it almost like a 180, didn't even see the goals, fired the ball over his shoulder. I immediately just thought, how did this happen? Like, as a
yeah.
14-year-old, how did this guy play and explore to such an extent psychologically that there was no barriers in his head to look like a fool, that he just was able to explore that human potential in movement that I've never seen anyone else do. That's the fascination, the curiosity I have is how do we become better? What are the barriers there that means that other kids, other adults can't do that, but Tony has unlocked that. Maybe he can
I
answer
think
that question.
it's Jordan and Gretzky they've missed more shots, I think, than any other players, you know? So it's just like, I think that's the bit. Honestly, I think that the superpower is just being okay failing and learning. Like that is, if you can just nail that and be like, yeah, I look like a bit of an idiot, but I'll be better next time, rather than like I did it once. Oh my God, I'm so ashamed. I'm never going to do that again. But this brings it back to your point as well about the psychotherapy. Someone said you're an idiot when you were 5. I'm never going to let anyone make me feel that way again. Or when you were 10 or 15, and then you shut down and you avoid that for the rest of your life. So, it's a lot of layers to this stuff as well, rather than like you do stuff, you get external validation, and then it's safe to practice and explore stuff then for that person.
Yeah, there's beauty in that though, isn't there? Like, there's beauty in, and you need to be around people that appreciate that too. Like, obviously, if you're in a group training and practicing and playing like that, and you get absolutely pelted because you're after missing a shot, and you just think, okay, I'm never going to try that again then. But if the
Yeah.
group around you, again, that term is like psychological safety. If the group around you appreciate that you've given it a go and you missed, perfect. At least you had the balls to give it a go, then that is a beautiful thing. You think, geez, actually, I can try these things. And I think I was listening to Johnny Wilkinson. I don't know if you've ever heard Johnny Wilkinson talk, the rugby player. He had he was on a podcast called the High Performance Podcast a few years back, talking about this same topic, about what he learned as he went through his career. And suddenly the shackles came off, but they obviously, it was when he was nearly retired, when he was playing for too long, that he just found beauty in trying something and failing and then trying it again and again and again. And there being no non-negotiables in terms of practice. It was just playing and
Yeah.
failing and embracing it. I listened to that podcast. I don't know how many times. And I think that's why psychotherapy interests me now. I want to find out if we can tap into the beauty of embracing vulnerability and failure and thinking we're all on this journey of trying to learn where we belong in life and getting that purpose. We can't find it if we hide ourselves from failures and hide
Yeah.
ourselves or these little failures that build up to eventual victories. Like that, we're not going to get anywhere if we have that, if we have those barriers. But Johnny's where I learned that from. And maybe in psychotherapy in 4 years' time when I'm qualified, maybe I'll have a bit of a better perspective on it. But right now it's exciting to delve into it.
Yeah, man. It's funny you were saying that because through salsa, I've been. This is where I think like using movement and activity is a great way of exploring your psyche as well. Because I was, practicing. The hard thing with dancing is you're practicing,
Yeah,
you're messing up, but there's a woman, generally a beautiful woman, looking at you mess up, which makes it really difficult. So you're doing that constantly, and you're in your head, you're stressed, super stressful. One of the most stressful things I've done. And I was like, oh my God, I feel like an idiot. I'm doing everything wrong. This is the dialogue for like 3 months, 4 months. And then at one point I was like, oh, like she's not judging me. I'm judging
yeah,
myself. Like that's what's happening
yeah.
here. Like she
Feeling
doesn't
like
care.
that.
No, none of these
You're the
people care.
problem.
Like, yeah, they're like, oh, good for you. Like you're coming, you're learning, great. But like I was, it was my own internal critic that was beating myself up. And then it clicked and I was like, oh yeah, like no one's judging me. No one's even realizing. They're just like, and I think it's good to take a step out and be like, if I saw someone like me doing that, would I be like, what a loser? I'd be probably like,
Yeah,
fair
yeah,
play, man. Well
yeah,
done. Good for you.
yeah.
So
Why did you? So if it took 2 or 3 months, Connor, for that penny to drop, why did you keep? What made you keep going back?
because the community are all like psychotic about how much they love it. So I was like, I'm just getting stressed doing this thing, but like I know that there's gold here, but I just need to stick with it. And everyone said the same thing. It's like, man, the first 3 months as a male, because you're leading, it's so hard. Most guys quit. Um, and then after maybe 3 or 4 months, it started clicking, and I was like, okay, this is now I get why everyone's like completely nuts about dancing. Like they're just all obsessed. So
It was more about
it's great.
accountability. That you were accountable to that community and kept turning up. Because obviously that's hard. Like it must be hard to keep turning up to something that challenges your identity and your ability
Huge.
so
Yeah.
often that you keep
It
turning
makes
up.
other things easy then as well. That's what I like about it. So it's like
I mean,
maybe I'm really good in one area now, like in the fitness industry,
yeah,
I'm established and that's like easy.
yeah.
Now I go into this new place and I'm at level 0 again. So now this is easier now because this is really
Okay.
hard. So it's like a contrast, which is really cool as well. So I
I
think that's
never.
another real benefit of learning new skills is like you have to work through stuff here and it benefits everywhere. It doesn't just benefit your new skill, it makes other things even more even easier as well.
I never. Okay, that's mind blowing. So relative.
Yeah.
So you're saying, I didn't even think about this. That's fascinating. So you're saying then the process of learning and playing in a new, challenging skill environment will make will make what you're established in feel much, much more comfortable and easier.
Yeah, much easier. It's like easy mode because you're starting at such a low level of the new thing and there's so many things, stressors, and you're just completely incompetent. And then you go back to this thing and you're like, oh, like
Okay.
I'm not using one arm, I'm using both of
Yeah,
my
yeah,
hands and my
yeah.
eyes and everything.
That's brilliant.
Um,
I never even thought of
mate,
that.
we need to jump off, man.
All right.
This is I think we'll be doing a bit of a series over the next few months because we've a lot to chat about. But yeah, really appreciate you jumping on, man. Before I let you go, anywhere you want to send people?
Oh God, no, no. Geez, I do have Instagram, Twitter, but I'm not massively active on social media. I'm trying to distance myself from it a little bit. Um, but yeah, the socials are if anyone wants to reach out on Instagram and Twitter. Um,
Cool.
yeah,
Awesome, man. Great to check in again, all right?
as always, fantastic.
See you, bro. Bye-bye.
Talk to you soon.